So I think it'd be fun today to reflect back on this last year, and what are some of the things you're proudest about this year, and we can look forward as well to what else you want to achieve. So
Yeah, a lot has changed. I think the best part was that I finally decided to change job. Not that I was not happy at HCL Tech, it's just that a different perspective. That's a big change that has happened since we last spoke. I think this year has been a fun year, settling in the new job, trying to learn the culture of the new company and settling in from the perspective of people, clients, and the role that I am playing right now. It's been a fun ride. Personal goals, I think health, as you know, is my number one priority. Been working on it. And recently I got this Hume band.
yeah, I haven't tried it out yet.
And the Hume pod as well, which is at home, which is interesting because it tells you, or rather gives you your health score and different parameters around your cardiovascular health, your overall well-being, and provides you a goal that how you can achieve, or rather you can set a goal and how you can achieve that. So I've been working around it and I learned a lot. For example, for me, exercise before was that, hit the gym 7 days a week if you can. Run as fast as you can for as long as you can. And though I have read books like Outlive, which did speak about Zone 2 and all, but I never paid much hoot to it in terms of what to do about Zone 2 or Zone 3 or Zone 4 exercise. So with the Hume band and doing some more research with the LLM models, I found that doing exercise the right way is very important, especially when you're growing old, right? It's about building muscle, but at the same time training the right way so that your cardiovascular health is in the right form, your other parameters around diabetes and sugar content and others are under control. So so the concept of when to do zone 2 exercise, when to do zone 3 exercise, how to get into zone 4 is something that I experienced this year, which has been good actually. I feel good overall and I feel light, and I can also see changes in my body because of that. So yeah, health has been good, so that's one. Beside that, the book with Nitara came out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Is that
so
the AI one? Or?
that's the AI one, but that's a fun part because when we started writing, it was Gen AI was everywhere. So
When did you guys start?
last year around after summer, so around September time.
Yeah, it's hard to write a book about AI. When it's changing so fast.
That's the fun part because the book was about Gen AI, and by the time it got released, which was in Jan, I believe, December and Jan, agentic AI has become a great deal. And I think the frontier AI models also have changed quite a bit in terms of comprehension and how you can use them in your day-to-day life, and plus how do you code around it.
Yeah, I don't know. You saw Claude, their new model came out, I think yesterday.
Yeah,
Opus 4.8.
Yeah, you've been talking about it. So the insane amount of changes, it's a hockey stick change. So but yeah, nevertheless, wrote that book with Nitara, so that came out. Hopefully we can do something around the learnings we have coding using Claude or using gravity and anti-gravity, and hopefully I can put that to work as well in terms of training people, just letting people know that how they can use those tools to best of their capability and ability. So that's second. Beyond that, my YouTube channel has been languishing. I'll be honest with you on that because I've been traveling so much that once you lose the touch, it kind of goes haywire. So I think the last video I released was maybe 3 months back. So that's something that is languishing. Hopefully I can get back on that, but my reading is still going on. So far this year, this is my 11th book. So I'm pacing about 2 books a month, which is what my goal was as well with all my travel and everything. So yeah, that's going good, and I'm keeping my halftime whistle, my travel website.
Oh yeah, are you still working on that?
Yeah. So whenever
You don't talk about it much these days.
whenever I travel, so I do write it down. So yeah, that is up to speed. I want to rewrite that website though using the new features of AI and see that how to make it more interactive. But yeah, that is definitely on. So yeah, and a lot of other pet projects which I do not want to talk about, but I'm working on an idea. Hopefully, I can release that app in about a month from now. So yeah, so lots going on. How
It's
about you?
amazing. The last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like this last year's been a lot of fun. It's been very experimental, as I feel like most years are, where I'm always just trying new things. And um, yeah, I feel like my biggest growth this year is I finally started working on a startup because I always talked about my interest in startups, but I never really took the first step to do working on one. And I worked on my first one last year and ended up dropping that one. I started a new one this February, and I'm learning a lot. I think I learned mostly about like how to use AI tools to the fullest.
Yeah.
Because I was on the phone with my friend the other day, and he told me that um, he doesn't find as much fulfillment in work anymore because of AI's capabilities of completing a lot of the work for him.
Mhm.
And he's not a coder, but he's like has to write a little bit of code for like the research lab he's working at because they're using machine learning for detecting like a lot of metrics in healthcare, like urgent care patient timings and all those kind of things. And they're working on some research related to that. And he says that AI can just write these scripts for me, like the work is not fulfilling. And I related to that feeling because I felt the same way in the beginning of this year, like around last summer when I was working on Rookie, the sports app startup. And when I was working on that, I started using Cursor, and I was like amazed by Cursor's capabilities. Like some other people on the team showed me what Cursor was. I didn't even know agentic coding existed at the time, but this is last August when I downloaded Cursor, and I started using it so much, and I was obsessed with it. The free trial was so generous, and very quickly I was just using vibe coding like the entirety of the app, and it led me to a lot of like mistakes I made in that process. And I also felt the same way he felt, where I didn't find any fulfillment in coding anymore. And it was around like November I just hated coding and vibe coding. But I think I had a new perspective on it this year, around January, February, when I started working on Ramira. And I think the perspective shift I had in the second half of this year was that previously, if my bar of success was here, um, if AI can get me here, then my mindset before was that like, what's the point of working anymore if AI can just do it for me? But my new mindset is like, if the bar with AI is here, then how can I be here? Like, how can I be either the one to use AI to the best, or how can I make something that's 10 times better the quality of AI? And that's when it got me excited again, because I realized that AI wasn't designed to replace my work. AI was designed to make me do even higher quality work. And I think because of that, this whole year I've been experimenting with tricks on how to use AI to its fullest, and I feel like I've learned so much. I feel like I'm not the best. There's so many levels to this. There's definitely people who can use it better than me, but I think a lot of the tricks I've used has led to super high quality work, and I'm really proud of like some of the things I've built with it. So I feel like that's the biggest like snapshot of this year, working on startups. I think that I'm still very naive in startup realm, because our app is in such early stages right now, and we only have like using the double or triple digits for like an iOS app, which is not super impressive. So I think there's definitely gonna be huge roadblocks coming ahead on scaling and distribution and making money. So I hope this year we can actually build some success with it. But I think that that's kind of the journey I'm on right now, and kind of what takes up most of my thoughts these days. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, you've also been playing around with AI a lot, and
Yeah.
you've used a lot of the models as well. And you told me, I think yesterday morning, that Microsoft canceled their Claude subscription. And
Yeah.
that's big in the news right now. So you want to tell me more about like that and what you've been reading about?
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the AI world. Microsoft internally they were using Anthropic for development. What I understand is that their bill for Anthropic was so large that they were questioning how it's adding value to the whole ecosystem, and the dollar that they're spending versus the developer time is justifiable. I think that's one perspective, and the other perspective is also they have to promote their own Copilot. I'm presuming the combination of two may have made Satya Nadella make that statement. where he's stopping them.
Does Copilot use Llama or?
Copilot, I think, can use any model. I think they, if I'm not wrong, they use ChatGPT.
Okay.
Yeah, so at
Gotcha.
the back, right? So that's, I think they have the partnership with OpenAI.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's going on. I think more and more that has happened, right? Uber, if you see, they use all of the allocated resources that they had for the company in 5 months. What they allocated for the whole year, they used it in 5 months.
What's the allocator? Sorry.
So it's like how much a budget you assign.
Okay.
So they assigned a budget in the beginning of the year that this much will spend with Anthropic for the whole entire year. Whatever they assigned, the entire developer community within Uber, they used the entire thing within 5 months.
So how come all these companies are accidentally getting charged by this? Is it because like the enterprise billing is by usage and not by
I think
some set?
It is. I think it's all about token usage, right? So I think if you not have the right guardrails, or as they call it, FinOps, the financial operations in play, and if you have unlimited usage to that, and you just get a bill at the end of the day, right? Today, what you do, you have a $100 or $200 subscription from Claude. I think your personal account. So moment you hit the token, it stops working. But I assume that if that stoppage then never happens, so it is using token in you're not billed based upon a post charge button.
If I was built like that, I would have spent so much money by now.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's exactly what is happening. And I think the recent news, I don't think it is out in public, but I think Amazon is the other one that is questioning the Claude. I think they burned about $500 million, I believe.
I think Amazon's still using Claude.
No, I think there's recent news like 2 days back.
Yeah, but I think they're still re-signing with them. But there was a news that they haven't pulled out yet.
I don't think they're pulled out, but what I'm trying to say is,
but yeah, a lot of companies
statement
are.
is there, right? And I think, look, the AI at the end of the day, you write a bad prompt, a bad agent which is making a bad call. AI doesn't know; it will just go and do what you have asked, no matter how good or bad your prompt is. So the economy of AI, the outcome of that can be correlated, that AI is smart, so it will do everything smartly. It all depends upon what kind of query and what you're asking the AI. So that the whole macroeconomics of AI will come into play in terms of truly is AI adding value. And there are different buckets to it: innovation bucket, transaction bucket, doing complex task bucket, right? And all of those will come into play because people are learning as they're going through. And I think the whole aspect of token is nothing but the electricity used in getting your job done.
Is it really that expensive, or is it just inflating prices?
It is indeed, because at the end of the day, because these AI models are trained on billions and billions of parameters, so when it fires, it inherently is going and using GPU clusters on some data center, which is going to consume a lot of compute power. So when you use compute power, you're using electricity, you're using different aspects of billing that will come into play. Plus, the creator of the AI has to also make money on top of it. The cloud where it is hosted has to make money on top of it, right? The utility company has to make money on top of it. All of those gets added because now the LLMs are using a lot of energy, right? Unlike the traditional old model one. Which is where I think the AI economy is going to come into play, and people have to be really realistic to where to use it, where not. AI has, great semantic layer of thinking based upon the knowledge graphs it has created. So you have to truly see that where AI applicability is. Truly, do you want to use it for mundane job, or do you want it for innovation or creative thinking work? So I think those are the dimension and dilemma that will come into play. I think it's an evolving area. And then a concept like SLM is taking a lot of precedence as well, which is small language model, where you train a small language model on your specific domain or your problem statement, and then you can host it in your own data center, so you don't have to go to the frontier AI. And by doing that, you can drop down the price dramatically, because there's no token money then, right? Because of course it is using your data center, using your power utility, it's completely under your control. And since the SLMs are small language model, they are trained specifically on your domain, their energy usage will be very different from how frontier AI models are used. So I think it's very different world coming, the dynamics will be quite different. And yeah, it's something to watch out for. In fact, when AI, Anthropic was making a lot of waves in news, and one of the news they made is that all of the software as a service company will be dead. And when that statement came out, they're saying that, look, COBOL code we can just write like this, like doing legacy modernization, or for example, Salesforce of the world, or MuleSoft of the world. You say you don't need those; we can write it on our own. When that happened, $1 trillion of the market just got erased overnight, right? And a lot of those companies I'm mentioning, Salesforce or ServiceNow, or all of those SaaS companies, their stock tumbled, right? And I think it is the truth is somewhere in between. Yes, you can truly have a systems of record where your database is, and write agentic on top of it, and you do not need all of those software as a service model, which were specifically solving certain problem, like Salesforce was solving the CRM problem, customer relationship management. MuleSoft was solving the business process automation problem. So if you're writing agentic on top of it, you do not need those subscription anymore. So yes, there is a truth to it, but again, business processes in a particular industry are so complicated that there is many a miss between a lip and a sip. So we have to see how it all evolves. But at the end of the day, LLMs are very powerful, and they're getting more and more powerful. Like the one you said, Claude has come up with a new one now.
Yeah.
These are extremely powerful models which can reason, which can solve humanly impossible problems in fraction of seconds or minutes.
Yeah. Can you tell me more how these SLMs are trained? Like, if you can give me an example of an SLM and like what it's trained
Sure.
on, because I feel like quality of text is so hard to get correct unless you train on like large volumes of text data, like the entire internet. But
yeah, so Olama is a open source LLM that is available that you can download, right? Which is like a version of Olama you can take, and you can train it on
Meta.
my Meta, yeah. And there are others as well, right? Like Alibaba has one, Mistral has another one, which you can predominantly download. And when you download them, they can be trained on certain parameters, right? These are like small language model. We can train anywhere between, you can think about 1 billion parameters to 15 billion parameters.
And what's a parameter?
Which are like the values that you want to train on.
Yeah.
Like if you want to compare to Anthropic's, Opus model and all, they're trained on billions and trillions of parameters, right? So because they're a wide language model, they do not specifically focus on a particular area or a domain. You know what I mean? So they are trained on trillions of parameters, and hence they need copious amount of data infrastructure, copious amount of GPUs, clusters, data centers, and everything else. So that's how they're trained, because they're trained on almost everything that the world has, right? But SLMs are small language models. So you can take this frame of reference like a Olama, and then you can say that, look, in my business, for example, you're working on healthcare in your current internship that you're doing right now, right? So in that particular healthcare domain, let's say, in a provider or a peer domain, if you're trying to solve a particular set of problem, which is, let's say, for example, fraud, waste, and abuse, which you spoke about. Now you can just train the database on the fraud, waste, and abuse model. So all the parameters you'll give, you'll train and retrain on that, just like how any other LLM is trained. But now you're very specific to a particular domain. So what happens is there are two things that will happen. One is it will become more deterministic because you've trained on your business, and you can go as specific as a company as well. I said you can say that, hey, this is about, I'm just making it up, healthcare, let's say fraud based and abuse in the claim side of the world, and only specific to, let's say, Anthem, which is a peer company, or only specific to Cigna, right? So when you very narrow it down, so you do not need trillions of parameters, you need very small amount of parameters, let's say billion or 2 billion parameters, but good enough for you to know everything. Now you've trained that, just like how LLMs are trained, you trained SLM in a very deterministic way. Now when you start asking question, it knows your domain inherently, and it can only answer that. Obviously it cannot answer everything in the world that a LLM can answer, but it can very specifically answer on your set of questions. So that's what is getting very popular in the industry now. So
Is it really?
right.
I've not heard a lot about it.
Yeah, it's getting popular because now you can four aspects, right? Number one, now you can create, let's say, a SLM which is very specific to my problem set or set of problems,
Okay.
right? Second, it is very cost effective. You do not have to pay tokens and everything else because it's your own, it's in your data center or in your cloud, right?
Mhm.
Third is you can keep evolving it, right? So you can keep training it to further enhance it. And fourth, you can truly create your agentic layer on top of it to do whatever application business functions you need to do.
Yeah.
So think of this as your own data has three layers, right? The taxonomy layer where you define the data structures, data taxonomy, either in graph or relational or whatever form. Then you have the ontology layer, which will have the definition of the taxonomy, what it basically means, what the data means. But truly what SLM can do is that it can take the taxonomy, it can take the ontology, and create a semantic layer on top of it, which is very specific to your business problem set. And then you can query it and get all the answers and create agentic layer on top of it to solve your business problems.
Yeah. I feel like there might be some use cases where that'd be really useful, but
Yeah.
I feel like there's probably a lot where, it wouldn't be as useful because
It has a very specific to a particular area. You're right.
Because even if you feed it like all like the context of your own business, then if you have any like creative problem or like problem that relates to solving, a business related problem that needs further context of like how the world works or how different things are changing, then it gets like very limited very quickly in like what it knows, right?
Right. So two things. One, if you want to solve a specific problem, it is very good.
Like, well, can you give an example of like?
Okay. Let's say I'll take a little detailed example just to give a perspective. Right. Let's say.
So do you guys have them at the companies you work at? Like, do you guys all?
Yeah, actually, the company I work for, we have an SLM for
That's cool.
our operations. Right?
Yeah.
So I'll take that as an example, right? So we do support work and we know that certain way the tickets are getting solved. So we have actually created SLM of how to solve those tickets. It's very specific.
So for repetitive tasks.
Yeah, and it can truly help. So it's like in that area. Other example I can take is in the healthcare, since you're working in that. Let's say I want to figure out all of the claims which are coming from the provider, whether they are fitting in a fraud or a waste or abuse, because claims, you can know how the claims are coming. It's a very deterministic way. I mean, there may be multiple different kinds of claim, but they are finite numbers. It can come from a provider, it can come from a hospital, it can come from a doctor, it can come from a lab, right? You know the areas, and all of the codes are also very well documented. The ICD-10 codes, right, 11 codes, which are like what disease state, what treatment you provided. And you and I have been talking, I think, yesterday about how the unbundling or upbilling happens there, right? So you can train your SLM in all of those elements, right? And then you can actually, once you train it, so it knows that these are the different areas for different conditions, which is what your taxonomy is, ontology is, semantic is. Now you can, once you have feed in all the data, you can start asking whatever questions you need to ask. That is a good example of SLM. So you're right. And there's another point, last point I want to highlight is that the beauty of SLM is that when SLM hits a block that it cannot answer, you can actually write your agentic in such a manner that if it is not able to get here, it can go to a frontier AI model and get the answer. So you can actually weave it all together. So you can control your cost. If it is not getting done, then you can go to the LLM and get the answer accordingly.
That makes more sense. So basically SLMs are used in context for if you're creating a workflow that requires some kind of large language model. If it's doing one repetitive kind of task or similar kind of task set or problem set, then it's much more efficient to train on a much smaller data set. So just more machine learning, but like it's still a kind of a large language model kind of style development, but it's only trained on a smaller set for like solving the one kind of problem.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. I guess the problem of like these big companies still wanting large language models across the board for their employees is still probably a challenge. And I'm curious how they'll approach that, like the balance.
Yeah. I think it's evolving and rapidly evolving though. And I think you're also right that SLMs are not that prevalent and popular. But I personally believe that with the cost coming into play, with specific business problem to be solved, SLM could be a great bridge between the frontier AIs and the problems in hand, so you can create something which is very specific.
Mm-hmm.
And I also believe it will be also a way for a lot of startups to make money. Like for example, clinical research, making drugs, right? You can actually create a SLM which can do certain tasks in a very better way, in a much more cheaper way, and you can create products around it which you can sell to the market accordingly. So I think it's like a feed into the feed, and then train it accordingly, and then you can use it for your market dominance in the area that you want to play in. So I'll tell you this, right? When cloud came about 15 years back, right? I think
Like Google.
like Google Cloud, the Microsoft Cloud and all, 15 maybe 20 years back, right? When they came in, I think they had a great technology solution. So it's like, how do you run compute on cloud, which is like, you do not have to have in your data center. They created a software defined data center, they create software defined network. All the compute are like very tiny atoms which you can repurpose, and you can, by using software, you can dynamically allocate and deallocate, and that's how cloud companies came into play. But where cloud company at that point in time they faced the roadblock was they had a great technology solution, but they did not have a domain experience, how a healthcare works, how a life sciences work, how a transportation industry work. And that's where the demand of the consulting company came a big role. They played a big role. I mean, companies who appreciate and understood the business well and can partner with the domain-centric companies in the respective industries to bring their solutions into play, right? And I think the same thing is happening if you see with Anthropic and with ChatGPT and all. They're great LLM generic solution, but the domain cuts are going to be very interesting and important. And I think that's where the bridge will be, and that's where a lot of the startup companies or the frontier AI startup companies, if I may say, can make a ton of money by using their domain capability with the slice of the LLM or SLM, and then go out in the market.
Yeah, that's the Google example is really cool because I mean sometimes some of the things Google does is so remarkable, especially with storage and what they're able to provide at such a low price. And that's still the early days of LLM, so we'll see how they can become more efficient with time. But I guess I still am not sure how the domain specific will look for LLMs still, because I don't really know how that would work. Because I feel like the one thing about SLMs is that they're definitely very efficient for like small problems or small sets, but they're like incomparable to an LLM.
For sure.
Just because like, even if you just look at the text generation layer, like the text generation layer becomes so much significantly exponentially poor at predicting words just at the second you reduce the data set from like the entire internet to such a small domain. But I mean, if it's solving a one problem, then it can do that. But then it's just like a automation tool than like a language model tool. So I'm still curious, like if there's other ways you think that these LLMs will be split to the domain ways. Because I guess we're kind of seeing it now where like people are using like wrappers and things like that to kind of make it focused in one direction, which is obviously a very simple layer. But I'm curious if you think other ways that it'll become even more domain specific.
Yeah, I think the biggest hurdle of LLMs are they're non-deterministic. I mean, you cannot for certain completely depend upon an LLM that it has given the right answer, right? And you may have seen it in your usual queries as well. Forget about coding. I'm saying, usual queries. It hallucinates at time. It provides answers which are not completely relevant as well. And when you question that LLM again in your next query, it immediately apologizes and tells you that, look,
That's
maybe
so
I looked at it. Annoying at times, right? And it happens more in coding as well, right? Because it'll hallucinate to such a point that you cannot be certain that where is the bond, especially in coding, that where I truly have something which is working versus what is not, right? Why I'm mentioning this is because the world in the business side, you just cannot have a non-deterministic outcome. It is okay to say that how many calories my food had, and it can guess 2000 or 2500 or 500, and there's no, yes, you're frustrated, but it's not kind of impacting your outcomes accordingly. But imagine a business critical operation. You cannot have a non-deterministic way to have a deterministic outcome, right? Let's say a supply chain is based upon an AI. You just cannot make is second guessed by saying that, oh, I was hallucinating, I'm sorry. I can't do that because you can have a downward impact. Or someone open on an OT, operation is going on, surgery is going on, and you just cannot have a non-deterministic
Especially from a
outcome.
legal perspective too.
Right. So why I'm mentioning this is that that's where the deterministic outcome has to come into play. So how do you balance the frontier AI LLM models, either through SLM or through very called out respective parsers or codes in a deterministic way, is the balance they need to make. And that's where I believe the software job is going to be much more interesting in the coming days. Because when you truly get into that zone where you need to make sure that what you're saying is 100% accurate, this is how software made before, right? So if they don't, they say there are bugs. So if you truly want to create that, that's where I think the software development has to step up the game. SLM could be one way. There could be other way. You can have LLM to provide you input, and then you have to have deterministic parser probably to parse those inputs, and then can conclude what it basically means. I do not have all the answers, but I'm just trying to tell you that that job becomes much more important when it comes to specific domain problem, particularly where regulatory is involved, particularly where human lives are involved, particularly where the repercussion of financial outcomes are important, right? So I think those areas will be always very I would say wary of using AI completely, and you need to make sure that you have a deterministic outcome accordingly.
Yeah, that's a really cool problem, and it's one I've faced a few times in development, and some I've read about a lot. But I've seen like two general solutions people take for those kind of problems, and the first one is to build a complete software that's purely deterministic and feed it to an LLM. So the LLM's layer is just re-explaining or putting it into English terms a deterministic outcome into a more human readable outcome. And the second thing I find really cool is I think this is going to probably become a lot more popular in coming years, but LLMs having access to tools. So you call an LLM and then the LLM decides which tool to trigger or which tool to use. Kind of like how Claude right now has so many built-in tools that it has access to.
Yeah.
I think that's going to become really cool where an LLM, when it realizes it needs to produce a deterministic or reproducible kind of outcome, it uses the specific tools that are more logic or coding based and which have deterministic outputs. I think the only problem with that is that the decision whether or not to use that tool becomes deterministic. But I definitely think a lot of systems will become purely deterministic software designs feeding into LLM's metadata and having the LLMs do something where if it's not deterministic, it's still okay, some kind of human readable explanation or some kind of chatbot kind of interface that's relying on deterministic tools. But
yeah, and what we didn't speak about is human in the loop, right? So I think autonomous agentic AI, I believe, is a far cry in my opinion. Can agentic AI be completely autonomous? They could be. I mean, you can design a system today where you have 5 agents working together to solve a problem, right? One doing the analysis, other taking the analysis and drawing conclusion, third taking that conclusion and drawing actions. And for those actions, you can have multiple agents as well. And you can say, go and, just like robots, get it all done without human in the loop. But I believe as I said, where the outcome has very time sensitiveness, human life in play, financial outcome in play, regulatory bodies are in play, you just cannot leave it like that. So I think the models will evolve, in my opinion. One, as you rightly said, one could be, for example, you have people in the loop or human in the loop who are reviewing, verifying, and making sure that the outcomes are in a way which are deterministic. So a lot of the heavy load is done by the LLM. The QC is done by the human. That could be one. The other could be that you go for deterministic parser-based outcomes. So you take the LLM input, but then you have a deterministic way of coding, which is what software development you're speaking about, which will take and get it realized accordingly. Probably that software could be also developed by AI, but again, verified by human. And third could be that you have a SLM model which is that it's near deterministic, so that you can know that you have trained it in a manner that it knows the outcome accordingly. It doesn't go generic to all. So yeah, there could be many of those or a combination of all of those coming into play. But I personally believe that where financial outcome, human life, or there are regulatory body involved, I do not think autonomous AI will come and be there, at least in the near future.
Yeah, autonomous is a big stretch. Like I feel like these days there's gonna be LLMs integrated into every single thing you can think of, but definitely not solely deciding things and built into existing systems where deterministic layers already exist. So
yeah,
it's really exciting. What's to come?
Agreed.
Yeah. Anyway, did we miss anything? Anything else related to AI that we want to?
Well, I think the AI and machine layer is something that is very interesting. Right?
What do you mean, like physical?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting area. I think people generally call it robots, but I'm not only talking about robots. It's something Neuralink, we have spoken about this before, right? Imagine a Neuralink inside your body, and that is also AI driven. So I don't know, humanoid maybe tomorrow, cyberbug maybe tomorrow. So I think those are wild west area of AI, but something that is absolutely possible. We saw what Elon Musk did with Neuralink, right? You could read the brain signals in the prefrontal cortex, if I'm not wrong, right? So the chip is reading that, which is insanely inside your brain, by the way. It's like right here, which is put inside by surgery, which is reading brain waves to literally figure out what you're thinking and then taking actions accordingly. Imagine if it is AI powered. So that's an area that is scary to me, to be very honest with you, and I do not know where it will go, because imagine human conscience getting married with AI. So
I don't think it's too far away.
Yeah. Did you read the book Nexus? You did, right?
By
Yuval Noah.
No, I haven't read that one yet.
Yeah, in the book Nexus, actually, it's interesting because when I read Nexus, I was wondering that a historian, he wrote Sapiens and other like 21 lessons from the 21st century, and there was one more.
Homo Deus.
Homo Deus, right? He's a phenomenal historian, right? He goes 10,000, 20,000 years back and connects the dot to today's world. So when I picked up this book, this was about AI. I was thinking, what you will know right about AI, but it's a very interesting book because he starts again from back in the day, when human beings were, Homo sapiens were evolving, right? And it takes the lessons from there, and he goes to the modern world. He talks about AI ethics, and it goes to the future also, like 50 years from now, like in 2080, 2090, what will happen. And one of the topics he talks about is that I think the cyborg is not a distant dream. It is going to be there. I think you're right. We have successfully figured out a way to read brain waves in prefrontal cortex. I mean, those signals, we exactly know what they're doing, the synapses, how they're coming together. May not be to the highest degree, but we have a fundamental, basic problem set available. Imagine if all of those brain waves or different synapses could be put in a large language model with, to your point, trillions of parameters, linked back to a Neuralink kind of a thing. Then where's the human conscience?
Yeah. Intuitively makes sense. Yeah. So
I think those days are not too far off, and that scares me actually. I don't know what it basically will do to the humanity overall.
We'll see. A topic I find very interesting is like AI and creativity, because this is more of like a philosophical question where, do you think AI is inherently creative? Can it be creative, or are humans objectively more creative than AI? What do you think about that?
I personally believe that human is by far more creative than AI, at least in the today's form and shape. See, AI has been trained on everything that human has created. This is I'm not saying right or wrong, but my hypothesis on this, right? What is AI trained on? Everything that human created, or human learned, or human has performed in the past, thousands and thousands of years, right? So if you see that AI's brain, yes, it can process faster than human being, but the boundaries are defined by human beings, E equal to mc square and all. Even the problems which there was a recent article where AI solved a mathematical problem which was not solved by human, but that problem was created by a human, right? They could not connect the dots. To create something out of those connections, true AI can do that. But to create something which is completely out of that juncture, which we do not know yet. I mean, is there another E equal to mc square? I do not know. Maybe quantum physics going to a different level altogether. Or the aspects of how the universe works, half of them we do not know. If you have read, the book 6 Easy Pieces by Richard Feynman, right? Which talks about the physics lectures. And so when it comes to the chapter on quantum physics, there's so many things we don't even know. I mean, we predominantly assume, guess, or it's beyond our comprehension. I do not think that AI can reach there. And those areas, I believe someday some bright spark will come in our mind which will connect those dots. AI can work in the realm of what you have created, an extension of those.
Yeah, it's funny because like the reasoning you're using to show why humans are more creative is kind of the reasoning I was using to show why humans and AI are actually similar than I thought. But I still think humans are objectively more creative, but only because AI is limited in its sensory inputs. Because I think something I was realizing after using AI over and over again is that, since it's trained on all the same, parameters, like if everyone's using Claude, everyone's Claude is trained on the exact same parameters as the internet. And if I write a prompt and you write a prompt and they're word for word the exact same, we're going to get a very similar output. Obviously a word or two here might be different, but if I type in like 1,000 words, you type in 1,000 words, and they're very similar words, then the outputs we both get are pretty much close to similar. So it kind of made me realize that, even outputs from an AI engine can be reproduced through putting the same seed in. The only problem is that the seed is often so different each time that the outputs also look significantly different each time. Because like I might write, what are the best places to visit in New Jersey? And you might say like New Jersey best places to visit. Like just the slight changes in seeds change the parameters a little bit to give a slightly different outcome, but relatively they look similar. But then someone who writes a whole paragraph asking for the same question will get a whole different output. And the way I'm tying this back is that an LLM is limited to the sensory inputs of all the internet it's trained on, and also the input it's received as a prompt. And compared to human, like we're not trained on the internet, but we're trained on all of our sensory inputs that come from our life. So, for the 20 years I've been existing, I've had sensory inputs through my eyes, through things I've seen, through things I've read and ingested, through things I've heard, through things I've tasted. I think somewhere deep in the mind, like that is the input, and the output is whatever creative ideas we come up with. Because I think over time, all of our creative ideas have come from inputs, whether that be like looking at trees and plants, and ideas don't come out of nowhere. They come from like connecting the dots between things that already physically exist in the world. But I think that the only reason humans are objectively more creative than AI is just because we have more sensory inputs, and LM is a very confined sensory input. But I think the second I don't know if this is even possible, but if some kind of model can have more input beyond the internet, which is kind of hard to define because how do you feed other kinds of inputs to something? I think that you can also, if you have more inputs to it, plus you have more, extended over periods of time, as like humans have taken hundreds of thousands of years to evolve and come up with ideas. And you can give it like very unique inputs that are unreproducible. I think it could also come up with creative ideas that are novel. But because nothing is inherently novel, like even ideas for like houses and things like that came from slowly over time, people connecting dots between things that exist. But I think that we've also had so much time to connect those dots, and then we're able to build on each other's ideas. And there's so much input that we have, like 24/7 we're getting input, and I don't know if it's even scalable to a model that has such limited compute power. But I think if that problem gets solved, then the creativity of a human and an AI would be probably similar, in my opinion. Because I think our brains and LLM's computing power, it works in the same way. It's just that the inputs are different.
I think there is another factor, in my opinion, which is important, which is the conscience. So human
consciousness.
You have a feeling, you have a consciousness, right? So I think that changes quite a bit of things, right? For example, right from religion to how you appreciate a particular situation, how you feel about a particular thing, all of those aspects. And they're saying that computer may reach there, but I think that's a huge, in my opinion, input to some of the most creative things that has happened. I do not know how a system or a computer will get that.
Just
Even
because
if
of the
you-
pure incentive to do it
Yeah.
out of whatever fear of death or
Yeah.
pain that
Yeah.
drives us to come up with things.
Yeah.
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 It's hard to use that as a separator when it's still unclear why we feel that way. Because there's no way to prove that nothing else does. But yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're all right. Like most of the most creative things came through deep emotion,
Yeah.
and deep emotion has driven people to do insane things. So
I think if emotion, passion, if you take that away, like today you're working a Remera, I mean, you have given hundreds of hours, and in a day you give so many hours to it. I think it's driven by a deep emotion and passion, in my opinion. Otherwise, it's very hard to do, or maybe it has to be some incentive towards it, right? So, how do you incentivize a computer towards thinking on those directions is very hard, in my opinion.
yeah. It's an open question.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, what's your goal for Remera this summer?
We've been doing a lot of building, not a lot of growing. I think our TikTok's in a good place. It's been our main distribution network. We have a good amount of followers on there now. I think the main thing is we still haven't built the right product yet. Just through customer feedback, we got a lot of good feedback, and we're just adjusting a few things. And I don't want to be the person that builds forever, but I still feel as if the app is not ready yet for like massive scale distribution. But I do think by the end of June it'll be there.
That's what your goal is. End of June, you're saying?
Yeah, by end of June I think it'll be in a
That's
state
awesome.
where
Yeah.
I mean, it's so tempting to keep building, but it comes from a place of comfort.
Yeah.
By the end of June I really want to take a big step back, and I feel like if the product's not ready yet, there's a big problem with something. But I think by the end of June the product will be ready. We've had enough feedback now. We're not halting growth. We are growing through TikTok, but we only have one distribution channel right now. I want 2 to 3 active ones, and then take some like bigger leaps, like bigger distribution channels. And the main goal for the summer would be like get this in the hands of like as many people as possible, like 1,000 downloads, or like because it does spread like wildfire if the product's good.
Yeah.
So I think when we get the product right, but I'm having a lot of doubts about whether this is even a monetizable business. That's where it's a very hard business to monetize, especially as an iOS app. So there's a lot of avenues we're thinking, and we're going to experiment, but there's a high chance that even if we build a great product, that it's going to be hard to make money off of it. So we'll experiment and we'll try, but that's an open question that we won't have the answers to until we get this in the hands of thousands of people. So right now our sole focus is to make quality product, distribute it, and then figure out like offer it in the hands of a lot of people and the value is there, how you can actually make money off of it. But it's not something I'm thinking about yet until we can even get it. If you can't even get in the hands of thousands of people, then money's a separate ways away. But that's kind of our current state. But,
Makes sense.
cool. Thanks for doing this in my car. When we have more time before the summer ends, we'll do another one that's a little more.
We'll do one
Professional.
after we come back from Greece. Maybe.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Cheers. Bye.